B2B Cambodia, the portal for business use in Cambodia.
CBRE Cambodia held its annual Fearless Forecast event on January 12, 2023 at the Oakwood Premier Phnom Penh. The event featured a keynote presentation by Mark Townsend, the chairman of CBRE Cambodia, reflecting on the kingdom's economic and real estate-related developments in 2023 and forecasting how the market will look in 2024. We had a chance to speak with Mark Townsend following his presentation, as well as Lawrence Lennon, the managing director of CBRE Cambodia, to get more of their thoughts.
2023 was a particularly tough year. There were some high points with the election, the SEA Games, a lot more new offices and retail centers opening. The problem was the demand that we've seen in previous years wasn't there. For 2024, unfortunately, it's more of the same. It's probably on everyone's radar now that there aren't many new companies coming to Cambodia. So if you're launching a new office building, you're probably fighting for the same tenants that the guy next to you is. And unfortunately, or fortunately for tenants, rents will continue to drop. We're seeing the hospitality sector change shape slightly. We very much have been dependent on Chinese tourists in Siem Reap, in Sunakville. Now they're being replaced by local tourists and Asian tourists. And the main growth, like everywhere else in Asia and in Europe, is Indian tourism, or tourism from India.
Well, there's a range of solutions, and I think the key is making sure that we look for them and we're as creative as possible. Solutions range from further diversification of the economy. This is for sure probably the most important thing, and I'm slightly obsessed with agriculture, for instance, which is around 24% of our GDP, but it only makes up a small part of our exports, particularly around the value add side. So we've got to explore value add more. Outside of that, in terms of the specifics of real estate, another sort of passion of mine is around urban planning, zoning. This is really an area that needs more focus. It's about livability. It's about creating a beautiful city. People like living in beautiful cities, and that means it will create more interest in coming to Cambodia, whether it's for tourism or whether it's for coming here as a professional.
I think it's a bit of both. For a start, whether it's the States or in Japan or China, the local market is the dominant market. India is a great example of that. I think Cambodia is on the radar screen of companies involved in garments and footwear, but it's not on the radar screen for agricultural products in the same way that Thailand is for mangoes and sticky rice. And, it needs to do a better job at selling itself. We talked about repurposing, reusing, repositioning. We talked about ESG as an overriding concept, particularly if foreign investors do come back. They will look at ESG projects, family businesses that understand ESG and that embrace ESG.
Well, I mean, Cambodia's got so many great fundamentals. The average age is 27 in Cambodia, and so we're younger than our neighbors, which is a great starting point because it means that people are young, they're innovative, they're hungry, and on top of that, we've got a long period ahead of us of productivity. I think in order to grab more of those opportunities, we need to focus on things like vocational training, and I think that needs partnership between the private sector and the public sector in order to bridge that gap. Our neighbors have done very well out of being successful around those things. Vietnam, particularly in terms of agri and in terms of manufacturing. Thailand, agri, manufacturing, and for sure tourism. And these are lessons and opportunities that we can learn from.
I mentioned earlier that I call it the Taylor Swift effect in Singapore, where the governments realize that you can increase the hospitality level, the F&B, when you've got the ability to sell 50,000 tickets to Taylor Swift fans for 5 nights. But that's not just Taylor Swift. That's a whole combination of having the national stadium, the ticketing system, the e-commerce system, the medical, the insurance, the logistics, makeup, sound technicians, lighting technicians. So Cambodia's got to find that thing. It may not be Taylor Swift. It may not be Samsung. I was in the Philippines 25 years ago when people were talking about BPO, which was business processing outsourcing. It took off, not immediately, but over 2 or 3 years with some initiative from eventually the government and the initiative from the private sector. The Philippines and India have become known as the BPO centers of the world, really. I don't know what it's going to be, but it's not necessarily going to be Angkor related.
It's the alternatives. It's how can you find opportunities in the market that people aren't necessarily thinking about. It's how can you repurpose your building. So maybe there's a retail project which isn't performing. Maybe it could be turned into a health clinic or a dentist. There's lots of opportunities along those lines in terms of the niches or the underutilized spaces that have organic, non-recessionary drivers. So the reality is that there are boundless opportunities. It's just making sure that the numbers work, number one, and number two, it's looking around for those opportunities and exploring the region or even the world to try and find those concepts that we can bring here and really tap into the opportunities here.